Hey y'all, Hobby Drifter here again. A question I get asked quite a bit is, how did you go about moving to and living in Japan? Well, I did it in a really weird roundabout kind of way. A way that, I must be very clear, I do not recommend anybody try to copy. For reference, the normal way that people like me do it is by applying in their home countries to either a dispatch company or an eikaiwa. That company will sponsor a visa, usually specialist in humanities and international services, or an instructor visa, both of which require a bachelor's degree to qualify for, and they help you find a place to live while you're working in Japan. This can be really expensive, since, with few exceptions, you'll have to pay for your own airfare, the costs associated with renting a place, which will usually run at least $1,000 or $2,000 US, and you usually won't get a paycheck for at least a month from the time you start the job. That's the normal way. I didn't do the normal way. My girlfriend at the time did the normal way. She invited me to come and visit, so I did. I bought a plane ticket and planned to spend about 6 weeks in Japan. But once I got there, I immediately fell in love with it. Even now, I don't know exactly what it was, but I just seemed to feel more comfortable there. So, I decided I'd try to find a job in hopes of extending my stay. My plan was to be an English teacher once I went back to the United States, so finding a job teaching English in Japan seemed like it would be fairly simple. I even went so far as to cancel my ticket back to the US. The job search did not go well. I had interviews a few times a week, and every single one, even the shady places, turned me down. This is due to a bunch of reasons, not the least of which is that I approached the interviews all wrong. I went into them trying to appear like this super serious, hard-working, stick-in-the-mud business guy, because that's what I thought they wanted. Because I'm an idiot. They didn't. They wanted somebody fun and flexible. But I managed to miss that for about 3 long months. A week before my tourist visa was set to expire, and I'd have to go back to the US. By the way, overstaying a visa is a great way to make sure you never get back into Japan. I had one final interview. And like all the others, it went terribly. Not only did I manage to suck it up, but the other 2 candidates were amazing. They had years of experience. They were fluent in multiple languages. Just everything, the works. At one point, the president of the company dropped by and introduced himself. Turns out we were both from Chicago, and the Bears were playing in the Super Bowl a week later. That was, no joke, the only positive thing to come back from that interview. Cool president. A few days later, it was the end of the road. I had to buy a plane ticket in the next week, and doing so on such short notice, it was unlikely I'd have the money to buy another return ticket anytime soon. And without a visa, you have to buy a return ticket, just in case that wasn't blindingly obvious, as it wasn't to me. Then the phone rang. Hello? Hello. This is that company you applied for last week. Are you still interested in the job? Yes? Great. There's just one thing. You have to start tomorrow. Can you do that? Great. Oh, your visa. Yeah, we'll have that all sorted out for you. We'll see you at work in the morning, Kevin-san. Wait. Kevin-sensei. Oh, I loved that. I had people call me Kevin-sensei for years. Anyway, a few hours later, my girlfriend came home from work. She asked if I'd heard back from the company, and I said that I had. She said, "Don't worry about it. Maybe we could take a trip to Korea or China or something like that, and then hope to get another short-term visa when returning to Japan." Which, I need to be very clear on this, you should absolutely not do. I told her I didn't want to do that. She yelled at me for giving up so easily. Finally, I told her, I don't have time to take a trip to China. I have work in the morning. And she slapped me. So I had the job. And as it turns out, the only reason I got the job was because I was the only person out of a dozen applicants who was willing to start immediately. I'd later find out that the only reason I was even considered for that was because the president had said something along the lines of, "Well, what about that kid from Chicago?" One of their teachers had quit on zero notice, and they needed a warm body to fill the seat for 6 weeks. Oh, right. I forgot to mention, the job was only for 6 weeks. 6-week contract. They said that I could sign a new yearly contract at the end of that contract, but these companies, they say a lot of things. But hey, spoiler alert, I did sign a new contract and wound up staying with that company for many more years. The job wasn't great. The school I worked at wasn't comfortable with a new teacher replacing their old one, so they rarely even talked to me, let alone scheduled me for classes. I'd come into work at 8, sit at my desk until a little after 4, then go home. Oh, and my daily commute was 6 hours long. 6 hours on trains before the advent of smartphones. I got a lot of reading done. But I really wanted that visa. So 3-hour commute, 8-hour day, plus overtime because I was, as I keep mentioning, an idiot. 3-hour commute home at a cost of about $600 per month, and no paycheck for 6 weeks because we got paid on the last day of the following month, and because I started halfway through a month, the company just put those 2 weeks on the following month's check. Eventually, I got a place closer to work, which cut my commute down to about half an hour, although I had to pay the first and last month's rent, a deposit, and what's called key money, a gift/bribe to the landlord, which pretty well wiped out my bank account. And by the way, it wasn't a nice place. You're going to think that I'm making some of this up, but no, you can go check. It was a studio apartment with a main street on one side and the JR train on the other. Taiko drum practice was every night, weather permitting, across the street. The place was above a porno store and below a porno studio. My neighbors were mostly snack bar hosts and hostesses, but I got used to it, and once I started getting paid regularly, money wasn't too much of an issue for long. The job got better in year 2 as well, and it just got better from there. I learned to be flexible, so the company was alright asking me if I'd be willing to move around to different places that needed experienced teachers. I wound up in a small farming town for 6 months, before living right in the center of Hiroshima City for a year and a half. But those are stories for another time. As always, if you've got a question, let me know on Twitter at HobbyDrifter, and I'll do my best to answer. Until then, thanks for watching, take care, happy hobbying, mata ne!